Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network. Liesel, Darby joining us here again to talk more about the topic of divorce. And she is a divorce expert, and I give you that title. She's credentialed. She's been helping so many people over the years with her skills as a certified divorce coach. The name of the company is Crown Coaching, and the website is mydivorcediva.com. Hailing from North Royalton, which is in Cleveland, Ohio area. She joins us today to talk more about the divorce process, how we're going to talk to our children about it, and again, all about Crown Coaching and how she can really help you. Welcome back, darling. How's everything?
Everything's good. I'm so happy to be here, as always.
Same here. Well, you have a lot of titles, the alternative dispute resolution coach, you help people. I mean, just give us a little of your background, please.
Okay, yeah. So I am an alternative dispute resolution certified divorce coach, which means that I really can help you to manage any conflict between you and your spouse, soon to be ex. And not just manage it, but also how to engage in it productively
Yeah.
so that you can move forward and not get stuck. So
Ah,
that's one of the big things I do. Also really helping to, well, like I said, move forward is one of the big things that a divorce coach does. That's what I do so you don't get stuck, especially if you're having some pretty big emotions that you're having a hard time letting go of,
yeah.
like anger, rage, anxiety, revenge, like
Yeah.
all these big emotions that can keep somebody stuck and not being able to make the other big decisions that you're making as you go through divorce, such as how are you going to divide your finances. And then the big thing I want to talk about today is the kids, right? Because if you have kids, then that should be your first and foremost. That's where your emphasis should be.
Yeah.
And a divorce coach can help you keep that in mind, front and center, as you're going through this process.
You guys, because unfortunately, a lot of times you hear horrible stories about the kids getting dragged through, and in the end, the kids are, suffering, and that's just not the way it should be. So I'm glad
Yeah.
you're here, and we're going to talk about this, and you're going to kind of address, all the situations that can occur, and how do we even begin to talk to our children about this? How do we even start?
Yeah. So I want to point out that the kids don't have to suffer a tremendous amount. It does not have to be like that.
Yeah.
It's going to be an adjustment for sure, and they're going to have some big feelings around it, but it does not have to be devastating. I will always say that it is conflict that makes divorce expensive, and it is conflict between the parents that is hard on the kids. So if you can get the conflict under control, your kids will be okay for the
Beautiful.
most part. I mean, not to say they might not have some ups and downs with this, but if you can get a hold of the conflict between you two, it does such a world of good.
Well,
Yeah,
tell
so
us about that. Yeah, the importance
yeah,
of
so
coming together.
I want to talk about a little bit like a couple things. First of all, how do you have that initial conversation with the kids? Like, we are going to get divorced, but then I also want to have conversations around continuing conversations around how do you talk about the divorce and your ex with kids through that process and beyond? Because parenting this is not one conversation you're going to have just one time. So one
No.
of the first things I wanted to say is it in a perfect world, and as much as you can, if you can have a parenting plan already
Yeah.
thought out and put in place. So if you've already met with a mediator or your attorneys and you have figured out what you want your parenting plan to look like, please do that before you sit down and tell the kids. Because your kids are going to have questions around some basic things like, okay, then where are we going to live? Where am I going to sleep? When do I see my parents? Do I have to change schools? Do I get to keep my friends? Do I get to keep my activities? And if you have a plan in place, you're going to have the answers for
Yep.
them. And
Mm-hmm.
that's going to really diminish their anxiety and fear, right?
Yes.
Because fear is
Oh,
unanswered questions. So if you can answer those basic questions for your kids, that will go a long way towards making this as smooth as you can.
well,
The other thing, if you can do this, oh, did you? Go
no, no,
ahead.
go ahead, go ahead. I know we step on each other. No,
Okay,
please continue.
sorry,
Go
because
ahead.
I ramble.
It's
The
fine.
other thing is you have a conversation with your spouse before this and figure out what you're going to say and what you're not going to say. And ideally, you will both tell the kids at the same time. And it's really important to get on the same page of what are we going to talk about? What are we not going to talk about? Because this needs to be a pretty focused message that you're giving, and it needs to be a united front message that you're giving. And one of the things you don't want to do is blame the other partner or throw them under the bus. And for some people, that's going to be really, really hard, especially if one of you wants out and the other one really
Mhm.
doesn't, or if there's been infidelity, or if there's
Oh.
been any kind of, bad stuff that has happened to bring you to this point. And let's be honest, like I say, nobody wakes up casually on a Tuesday morning and says,
Mhm.
"Oh, I think I'd like to get divorced. How about you?" "Oh, okay,
Oh,
that sounds good." No, no, no.
no.
We know that there's been conflict up to this point, but from this point forward, you have to put the kids first. And if that means that you have to bite your tongue so that you don't, you know, let them in on exactly, if it, like I said, if it's infidelity or, you cannot blame the other person in this conversation or going forward. And that can be really, really hard, really
Wow.
hard. But you have to put the kids first. And so so kids are going to be looking for somebody to blame. Okay. They're going to want to blame one parent, and they're going to be looking for that. So you have to present this as, this is an adult decision. We came to this together. We decided this together. We're not able to love each other as married couples are supposed to love each other. And so
Mhm.
that's why we're getting divorced. And it can be as simple as that. And you really don't want to say much more than that. And that is your message. And you have to stay on that message.
Wow. Now, I mean, the truth is, how do you control this? I mean, a lot of times you can't control it because if one
Yeah.
parent's, you need two parents, you need the united front, because if not, it's just going to be a disaster. And even for those who are not divorced out there dealing with parents and situation, it's not always easy because two people are always going to have different feelings and opinions. And how do you, I mean, I'm like, it's common sense. You do what's best for the kids, but not
Yeah.
everybody understands that.
Right.
So, what are some of the things maybe we should be saying and not be saying?
Yeah. So one of the things, first off, you want to, like I said, you guys have a conversation beforehand, get your story straight. Call all the kids together at one time. I'm going to get a little bit into like how to set the scene here. Make sure everybody's been fed. So sometime after breakfast,
Yeah.
right? Make
Mm-hmm.
sure you have a
Okay.
whole day set aside. Nobody needs to be running off for appointments or sports or
Okay.
anything else. Have your schedule cleared. If you can do this on a weekend, even better. But you want to be available to your kids for any questions, for hugs, for handling the emotions that might come out, or for slammed doors, or
Okay.
silence, or whatever. But have time cleared out for when you have this conversation with your kids, and also make, like I said, make sure you've had breakfast or lunch. People, you don't want to be doing this on an empty stomach.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah. Go ahead.
So then you want to say your message, like your dad and I have made a decision together
Yep.
that we're going to get divorced. This is an
Mm-hmm.
adult decision. It doesn't have anything to do with you. You did nothing wrong. We just are not able to love each other as married people are supposed to love each other. We will always love you. That's not changing. We're going to go from, we're still a family, but we're going to be transitioning to a family that lives in two households.
Mm-hmm.
And then you just, what are your feelings about that? Um, and you're gonna get a lot of different kinds of reactions. And a lot of it, of course, depends on the age of your kids. So if you have really young kids, you're gonna be having this conversation a lot because they can't process it. And even older kids. So, but
Yeah.
I don't want you to be thinking you're gonna have this conversation once and that's
Yeah.
it. You might be having many small conversations about this 100 times. And the kids are going to have different kinds of questions. So again, younger kids, they might just be like, what's happening? Where am I sleeping? Where's
Uh-huh.
daddy?
Yep.
Those kinds of things. And you just repeat your message. You're going to be, we're going to be staying here. Don't you worry. Here's your favorite, toy. Here's the pets are here. Whatever you can say to just kind of keep repeating a very soothing message. We love you. We both love you so much, and that's not changing. Okay, so don't you worry about that. Older kids, especially maybe around, you get a little bit older, like 12, 13, 14. Again, they're going to be looking for somebody to blame. And so they're going to have some more pointed questions like, well, what really happened? Whose idea was this? And you cannot feed into that. You still have to stay on point with this. Like, we both decided this. Even if that's not the truth between the two of you, that's not what you tell the kids. And a lot of people think, well, I don't want to lie to my kids. You're not lying to your kids, but this is not their business who decided what. This is an adult decision. It's not for the kids to have any part in it. Your message is, we decided this together.
True.
We're getting a divorce because we cannot love each other the way that
Way.
married people are supposed to love each other. And you just keep repeating that. And it's going to be
That's all
hard
you could
because the
do. But
kids are
yeah,
going to, because you don't, so your kids deserve to love both parents. You don't want to make them choose. And kids are going to feel like they need to choose sides if you don't give that message.
so
And
true.
they're going to want to protect the parent that they feel is most vulnerable.
Ah,
Okay. So even if you, in your heart of hearts, you're like, oh, he deserves this. I don't want the kids to, be siding with him.
yeah.
You have you have to get a grip on that before you have these conversations, and you have to put the kids first. They do not want to, don't make them choose sides. They deserve to have a loving relationship with both of their parents.
Yep.
And your ex maybe they're a terrible partner, but that doesn't mean that they're a terrible parent,
True.
right? So you have to leave that door open. You're going to
Ah.
be co-parenting for a long time, and the smoother you can make this now, the better off down the road.
Wow. These are some hard topics and hard conversations. It really is. But so many people are going through the same thing. We have to just, make you all aware that you're not alone. And that's one of the
No.
things that is wonderful about you because you can empathize. You've been here, you've been through this. And of course, worked with so many people who have been as well. Let's just remind everyone at this time how we can contact you, and then we'll continue the discussion, please.
Okay, so you can find me at www.crowncoaching.com. Yeah, my email address is in there, my phone number is in there, all the information that you need for services. I offer individual coaching, so that's what you'll find in there. But that's the easiest thing. Just Crown Coaching, you can find me.
Perfect. Thank you so much. All right. What else did you want to detail in regards to this
Okay.
process?
All right. So we've talked about this initial conversation, which is probably one of the hardest things that
Mhm.
you're going to do. One of them. It's not the only thing, but it is one of them. Like I said, so you want to be available to the kids for the rest of the day, the weekend, because some kids might be quiet and not have a whole lot to say right now, but they might have some questions later. If they're upset, go and give them a hug. If somebody storms off to their room, divide and conquer, somebody stay with the kids, that are there, and somebody go off and talk to that one that's really, really upset, and know
Yeah.
that they can change roles all through this process. It might also be nice to think about having some kind of a family activity later that day, even if it's just you're watching a movie and having some pizza together, so that the kids still see that you guys are still able to be civil and, again, a united front, because kids will try to divide and conquer if they
Of
think
course.
they can. But it's really important that they see that you guys are still able to be a family, still be parents to both, to all the kids, that you can be in the same room. That's so important for them to know that you can do that.
Yeah.
So have something, maybe a walk in the woods, something that you're still doing as a family just to again give them a sense that this will work out.
Oh,
Okay, but then, okay, so that's that conversation.
okay. Go ahead. Go
Then
ahead.
what happens to all the conversations that you're going to have from that point onward?
Okay.
Um, Again, you cannot blame. You cannot um, talk badly about the other parent in front of the kids. You can't do it. And again, even if you have to chew your tongue off, do not. Do not,
Mm-hmm.
because that's where damage comes in when the kids again are feeling like they're having to choose sides. So think of it as a bookend, right?
Okay.
So even if, let's say that you hear let's say your other parent is bad mouthing you, because I hear about this all the time, but he's saying this about me. Well, it's driving me crazy. How do I handle that? All right, so they put up one side of a bookend here. Okay, your kid's in the middle. You don't want to bookend your kids, which means that you cannot say anything about it, or else now your child is in a bookend. And
Ah,
that's where damage goes. So it's going to be up to you to take the higher road, even if this almost kills you. You cannot, you can't come back and say something about that. What's a better thing to do? I mean, I don't expect you to stand there with your mouth
yeah.
closed and just look at your kid, but you can say, how do you feel about that? Like, turn it back on the kid. Or does that sound like something that you've seen me do, or does that sound like something I would
Mm-hmm.
say? You know, have a conversation with your child about this, and that changes the dynamic rather than immediately getting defensive and saying, I would never say that your dad's a liar. I would never, that's a whole different trajectory. And now your kid's thinking, oh my God, I can't talk about anything because it's mom's going to be mad, and then she's going to tell dad, and then dad's going to be mad at me. You don't want that to happen.
Nope.
Okay. You have to think long term here. You are
Yeah.
thinking long term, best interest of your kid. This is why this is hard, because there are times when you will maybe have to sit on your hands or go in another room. It's okay to go in another room for a while. You can tell your kid, you know what, I need to just digest this for a minute. Um, we'll come back and we'll talk about this. But it cannot be out of anger, and it can't be pointing fingers back at your other spouse, calling names or any of that. It has to be more, let's have a conversation about, well, how does that make you feel when you hear that? What do you think about
Yeah.
this? Turn it back on them and have a conversation, no matter how hard that might be in the moment. Because you know what? If your ex really is doing some bad things and saying bad things about you, your kids will figure this out.
Yeah.
Right?
In
You
due
don't
time.
you
That's what everyone says. Yep.
You don't have to be the person to do that for them. And guess what? When they do figure it out, they're going to have so much respect for you as the parent who rose above that and did
Wow.
not put them in the middle.
Yeah. It takes a lot
So
of
karma is
patience.
a real thing.
Yep. I
It'll come
believe that.
around, and it might not be now, it might be years from now.
I
But
believe
kids
that.
aren't
Yep.
dumb.
No.
They can process this later, and they'll see, through continued actions and reactions, who's doing what. So don't worry about that. And again, they will have so much respect for you as the person who didn't feed into that and did not make them choose. Because that's where, we talk about kids having daddy issues or mom issues or whatever. That's where a lot of that comes from. If you pit them against a parent or put them in the middle, that causes long-term damage. And that's what you want to avoid at all costs. So, and I get it, it's hard.
Yeah.
I'm not telling you any of this is easy, but it
Yep.
is necessary.
Got it. Absolutely. And I don't know anyone that went through a smooth transitional divorce. It's just amazing. But then after it's over, everybody looks back and says, I wish we would have done this different, the cheaper way, the mediation way, the coaching way, because attorneys took too much money and it did nothing good. In the end, the same
Yeah.
solution happens. And, it is about the children. If you have the children, obviously. And still, if you don't have children, you still need help, and you should be doing things more amicably this way than fighting back and forth with attorneys. Just my opinion, my goodness. Yeah.
No, that's a I would say that's fact.
Thank you,
But no,
thank you.
it's an opinion. But I mean, seriously, because think of it too this way. As mad as you are, you might be at each other right now, you're probably not always going to have that same level of intensity.
Yeah.
So you'll get over it. But guess what? You don't want to ruin your kids' happy moments from here on out. If they have to worry about, oh my God, if mom and dad are here in the same room, what's going to happen? Or if I invite mom to this and I don't invite dad, will dad be mad? And so
Hmm.
I want you to start thinking about birthdays, graduations, weddings, baby showers, all this other stuff, all these happy moments that your kids deserve to have. You don't want to ruin it by having them having to worry about that. And so guess what? Even if you get over it down the line, they will not. So you have to set the tone of this right. And okay, so let's say that you've messed this up. So you have not done this perfectly, and you know what? God bless you if you have done this perfectly. But none of us do. So in case you haven't done this perfectly, forgiveness goes a long, long way. And you just
Hmm.
try better the next time. Okay. But seriously, the more that you can practice doing it, the better and easier it will get over time. And guess what? You're going to have a lot of chances to practice this. You're going to have a lot of chances to master this. Um, so just keep in mind, don't
Oh.
do this for your kids, no matter
Oh.
how you personally feel about it. And you can feel about your ex however you want to, just not, don't say it in front of the kids, right? That's why
Hmm.
you have support, right? For you. That's why you have girlfriends, family, support groups, divorce coach, therapists. You have other places where you can talk about it, how you need to talk about it. I'm just talking about right in front of your kids. You can't do that.
Nope, you cannot. And urge someone today listening, tell their friend, tell their partner, tell someone, not the way to do it. And let me ask you now, what is the process of working with someone like yourself? How are you helping navigate these waters? And let's talk about the benefits of that.
All right. So a divorce coach can, first of all, is a sounding board to help you navigate through these feelings. To help you, one of the things I do is we do an exercise that helps to clearly define your values, what you find important. And so then I help you stay on track with making your decisions that are in alignment with your values, kind of so you don't start veering off because of your emotions. Also, there are ways to keep the conflict down. I teach those. We will, talk about what's your conflict style, what's your partner's conflict style. How can you mitigate this? How can you, I don't like to use the word manipulate, but how can you
Yeah.
manage this? Let's say manage. How can you manage this to get the best outcome that you want? So again, it's kind of a neutral third party here. I'm on your side though, as your divorce coach, but I still am objective. So I can see your blind spots. I can help you see your blind spots, and then we can figure out strategies to get you where you want to go so you don't have so many things to climb over.
Thank you so much for that. All right. And we still have just a few minutes left here in the show. And I just think it's so pertinent for people out there. And you've shared many experiences with us of the clients you're helping and the support you give them. We did the ABCs of divorce that time, right? With all that fear
Mhm.
and guilt. And I mean, there's just, guess what? It'll go away. It'll happen. And if you want it over quicker, go with someone like you because I know we talked last week about the expense. Was that last week or 2 weeks ago? About all the different people
Um,
that can help in divorce. Oh, you need a tax person. You need that. Was that
yes.
last week? I don't remember, right? But
That was last week. Yeah,
it
you're
was
good.
okay. There's just so much to it and to have someone who's knowledgeable in all aspects, it saves time, it saves money, and it's effortless, a lot effortless because you have the contacts, you know the whereabouts. All right. So if one kid comes to, their mom or dad that's going through the divorce and says something about the other one, hearing that the other one's talking about them, how does that parent react?
Again, you got to keep a straight face and you just got to be like, okay, well, how does that make you feel to hear
How
this?
does that make
How
you
does that make
feel?
you feel to hear that?
Yeah,
Have a
good.
discussion about the feelings.
That's
Okay.
perfect.
Not
Not
he said, she said
what?
that.
What? When did he say that? What? I'm going to call him. I'm going to. That's the initial gut response, but good practicing. Good,
Yeah.
good. But how does that make you feel? Thank you so much. You're helping me too, even though I'm not in a divorce, but dealing with some situations with one of my son's father, and Yeah, we had a birthday party at the house the other night for my son who turned 8. And by the end of the night, it got there's a lot of tension, and then he spends the whole time texting me on the way home about this and about that, and then my son's in bed saying, "Mommy, what are you doing?" And he could see by my face that I'm upset. So, and I see you're
Yeah.
talking to Peter, and he puts it like because he could see, and I'm like, "Oh, nothing," and like I couldn't even hide it, and then I'm like, I have to stop. I have to just put the phone down, which I did, but I could see the anxiety start to come into him because he saw Mommy was arguing with Daddy, and it's a horrible feeling. And I'm like, oh my gosh, now he's going to hurt. Now he's going to be worried. I don't want the kids to worry. And that feeling of the look on his face was like, what do what's going on? It just breaks my heart. So, and again, that's not a divorce. That's just still after the fact, but still we should all be on a
It's,
united front, no matter what. Thank you for reminding us of
yeah.
that. And one more time, how can we contact you?
crowncoaching.com.
Aw, thank you so much. Always a pleasure seeing you. I love talking to you and hope you have a fantastic day.
You too, Jill. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Liesel. Enjoy the rest of the
Okay.
day, and we'll chat again
Yep.
next week. Always good points,
Yep.
good notes, very thorough. I love that about you, Liesel. Thank
All
you.
right.
Bye bye.
Okay.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.